So I thought I'd take you through the breathing techniques that I shared in last week's session. There are 2 breaths that we use to support through the first stage of labour, so as your cervix is opening and dilating. And then I'm going to share with you the 3rd breathing technique that you can use when baby is descending. So let's just focus on those first 2 early ones that we went through in the class. So the first one is what we call the centred breath or the birth breath. And this is the one that I use the most and the one that I find is really, really effective, because not only is it going to flood the uterus with oxygen, it's also going to help to tell your brain that you're safe. And the reason that a lot of these kind of hypnobirthing practices work is that if we are relaxed and if we're breathing, then we tell our body, tell our brain that we're okay and that we're safe, and therefore we don't go into fight or flight. And also it's going to make sure that you're nice and relaxed, because if we do this breath, it's very hard to do it with our shoulders up by our ears. So we're breathing in through the nose for 4 and out through the mouth for 8. So breathing in through the nose for 4 and then out through the mouth for 8. And that's a lovely, long, slow breath. You can see my jaw is nice and relaxed as I'm releasing that breath. And as I'm breathing in, I'm inflating the tummy. And then... And remember, this breath works beautifully with that wave visualization. So visualize yourself floating in the ocean, or perhaps you're standing on the shore and those waves are coming towards you, whatever feels right for you, because every contraction is going to rise and fall just like a wave, and you're going to see yourself gliding up and down those waves with no force, no resistance. So that's the first breath. The second breath I shared with you was the escalator breath. Now, this is a breath that you can switch into if you're finding that your contractions are building in intensity and perhaps that center breath isn't working for you anymore. So the escalator breath is not as deep a breath as the center breath. We're breathing more to here, so just where the diaphragm sits. And the breath in is equal to the breath out. So if you remember, I said, think about smelling a scent, breathing in a perfume, blowing out a candle. Breathing in a scent, blowing out a candle. And as you do this, you just flow all the way up to the top of the contraction. When you hit the contraction, the top of the contraction, you just then release that breath. So if you remember, we did it together last week. There's no counting with that one. You just do it for as long as you need to. And then when that contraction stops, you just blow it away. And then in between, you can go back to the centered breath. So if you want to keep the uterus oxygenated in between contractions, back to our lovely birth breath. Now the third breath, I didn't really cover this in the class. Simply, if you remember, I said that I've kind of got to the point really where supporting parents, I don't really like to coach with a breath at this particular point, because really when you're moving into that second stage and baby's descending, it's important just to do what feels right for you. And if you remember, we spoke about the second stage of labour, you will feel like you want to do a poo. So we really want to be focusing our breath down towards the bottom. So I am going to share a breath with you. You can use this if you want to. You don't have to use it if it doesn't feel right for you. But what it is going to do is encourage you to breathe down to your bottom, which is where we want the breath to be and where we want our effort to be going as we move into that second stage of labour. Now, remember, what we want to avoid doing is pushing, that gritted teeth, purple pushing. We want to work with our body, work with the contractions that we're experiencing, because everything within your body is going to want to move your baby down and out, and you just need to work with those contractions. If you try and work against them, you're going to make your contractions much more difficult. So for this one, you take a nice deep breath in and then you move the breath through the body down towards your bottom and then back up again in a J shape. So it's kind of like that as you breathe. So I'm going to demonstrate it a couple of times and then you can give it a go. The best way to practice this breath is on the toilet whilst you're having a number 2, because this is the best way just to practice. It's the closest thing you're going to experience to delivering a baby. So that's why it's a nice little practice activity, shall we say. So you're breathing in through the nose. Out. As you do the t, you relax the pelvic floor. And we want the pelvic floor to be nice and relaxed at this point, because that's baby is passing through the pelvic floor as they're descending. So breathing in, out. So if you imagine it as a colour, you even that colour down towards your bottom, and then as you let the breath go, it's coming back up again. So it's like a J shape as it moves through the body. So you can keep doing that each time you have a contraction, and you might find that your contractions are lasting longer than just one breath. So if you want to do a couple, just keep going until that contraction ends, because every contraction is moving your baby down closer and closer. In between the contractions, you can come back to the centre breath, to that birth breath, keeping the uterus oxygenated, and then as soon as you feel the contraction rising, back into the out breath. It's your choice though, just go with whatever feels right for you in that second stage. As long as it's not that purple pushing, then just do what feels right for you.